Grenada, Carrico, PD Monday, and the world. Welcome to another Mikey Live. I'm your host, Mikey Hutchinson. People, this is where it all happens. We're talking about the good, the bad, and the Mikey. So brace yourself. We are in for another ride of entertaining news, boy. When I tell it entertaining, boy, it's entertaining, you know. Telling me, oh yeah, today was one kind of day. Today was one kind of day, people. Protest action in the city. Protest action in St. George. Going into St. George's. You understand? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We want to welcome the people right now tuned in on Facebook. Big up to the people tuned in on YouTube. Big up to the people tuned in on WPG10. Alright, so all ya, we're looking pretty. So here's what I want all of you to do right now. Share the program. You see, when you share the program, that's how other people get to know that we're live. That's how other people get to know that the business has started. Alright, so all ya, take all your time. Let's talk about what's making headline news for tonight. Massive protests in St. George. Teachers, public workers, thing mash up. Teachers and public workers asked to stay home. Again, by the unions. Labor Minister worked late into the night meeting with the unions. We're going to talk about our business too. Man caught stealing at supermarket. NDC in solidarity with protesters. Education Minister calls on unions to return to the negotiating table. And reports of a gun drawn on a security officer at the Maurice Bishop International Airport. And we have a story from Trinidad, boy. A man say, I stole $60,000 to pay for my wedding. Trinidad. Yeah, Jay, big up. I see what's going on with you there, man. You know? He said, I stole $60,000 to pay for my wedding. So that we go tell all you about. Here's what's going on. We want to remind all you that the headlines is brought to you through the kind compliments of Duty Free Caribbean and Colombian Emeralds International. Share the program. Please share the program. But when we come back, it's real news in all your Lily Lolo. So stay tuned.
And so it begins, a journey like no other. Jungles so lush, they make emeralds jealous. Water that sparkles like diamonds. Mountains with more facets than precious gems. This is where good times are had, where love is strengthened, where memories are formed. And when it all comes to an end, bring home something that will never fade. Colombian Emeralds International. Bring home more than a memory.
Goodness, it's November! Quartz Black Friday preview sale continues with crazy doorbuster deals. Save big on new products every single day. Why wait? Get what you need today during Quartz Black Friday preview sale. Limited stock available. Offer valid from November 12th through 16th. Quartz Black Friday preview sale. Crazy doorbuster deals every single day. See in-store for details. Don't miss it. Quartz, bringing value home.
The National Cultural Awards and Dinner, Saturday, November 24th.
Radisson Ballroom at 7 p.m. It's a red carpet event honoring our cultural icons.
An expression of appreciation for their contributions.
Join with us and celebrate their great works. Limited tickets available for $150 at the Grenada Cultural Foundation. Call us on 435-2839.
Dress formal and share in the experience. Feature speaker, the legendary Paul Keynes Douglas. The National Cultural Awards and Dinner, a Grenada Cultural Foundation initiative supported by the National Lotteries Authority and the Grenada Tourism Authority.
And remember that Mikey Live will be broadcasting there on that night. We're also going to be live this Friday inside of Quartz. We are going to give you an opportunity to see the entire production live from inside of Quartz. It's going to be a special evening at Quartz. In fact, it's going to be Black Friday specials happening at Quartz. Earlier, we have a real thing to tell all about, so we don't really want to waste time with the business and thing like that. All right, I think it's now time for us to get started. For those of you who are onto the program for the first time, this is our official welcome to you. Now, it wasn't the end of a year-long tourism awareness campaign, the TAC, but the beginning of a bright future for the students of the primary schools of Grenada as tourism ambassadors. Give them a clap, people. Now, that's according to the Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation, Honorable Dr. Clarice Modest Cohen, who was speaking at the official pinning ceremony held at the Spice Basket on Tuesday today. All right, people. Now, students from several primary schools across the nation, along with their teachers, joined together at the conference center to recite the tourism pledge and receive their tourism ambassador pins and certificates after completing the Grenada Tourism Authority's Tourism and Me booklet, which was launched last year. Now, several students spoke about their benefits of the Tourism and Me booklet, which they studied and so on, and they say how it has made them better able to promote their little island, Grenada, particularly to visitors. Now, one of the students representing the First Choice Junior School, they said, I represented Grenada at the OECS swimming competition, and I told my Caribbean friends of the famous Grand Dance Beach. In fact, the student was saying that an invitation was extended to them to check out the Grand Dance Beach, while a student from the Grace Lutheran School said the thing that they like most about the book is where the tourists visit in Grenada. All right. So they say that the booklet helped them to better understand the tourism product and so on, thing like that, and they'll be able to share it with others. So earlier, give them a clap now, people. We want to make sure that we remain positive on the program now. Give them little children and nice little thing, the man. Why it is. You understand? Folks, we were told that there was going to be protest action today. There were going to be protest action in the streets of St. George's. But I'm not too sure if many expected what they saw today. People, it was like protests you have never seen before. Protests like you have never seen before. The teachers, public workers came out in their numbers, people. Came out in their numbers with their placards, singing songs, chanting, beating a bottle, knocking an iron. The messages was, listen, look at people. The messages were hilarious, though it was about something serious, but the messages were rather interesting. People were chanting all sorts of chants. Listening.
Got planted by the water, we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Fighting from our churches, we shall not be moved. Got planted by the water, we shall not be
In their song, they threaten to shut down the country if they do not get what they are looking for. They say, ban the belly. If they don't get it 25%, they're shutting down the country. Folks, it was hundreds of them who came to the streets to protest. They are asking for 25% gratuity, while the government of the day is proposing a 2%. Since talks have broke down in October, things escalated. Now, the protesters arrived in the city just around 11 o'clock this morning, and they made a loop and then proceeded on to Tantine, where a massive rally was held. Of course, we're going to be talking about that in a moment in terms of decisions that were made at the rally. Now, while there were a lot of onlookers, as you can see, a lot of onlookers who probably would have stopped their production during the working day to at least get a glimpse at what was happening outside. It was hard to miss because the sounds were resounding. Folks, we also observed members of the National Democratic Congress who were part of the protest. We spoke to Mr. Randall Robinson, who said that it is the government's responsibility to solve this issue. He said that government may not be able to escape the 25% since it may be enshrined in the Constitution.
We really tried to engage. You know, when we were in office, we really tried to engage people to deal with this matter. And we had showed that we had begun the process because, you know, government can't come to start to negotiate unless they understand in a real way where it is that you're at, what is what is the nature of the liability and all of that, so that, you know, you could sit down, you could have some fruitful discussions with people. Not trying to hide information, you know, but just letting them know what the reality is, and let's try to find a way. Now, we are discovering that it seems we can't escape the 25% gratuity because the thing is constitutional. So I guess now the government has to sit down with workers and determine, if they're talking about, well, affordability and all of that, what is the best way forward. It didn't have to come to this, but it is here. And all of us, I feel, as citizens, have a duty to support the workers in this, because it's today for you, tomorrow for me, you know. And so we have to continue. We have to continue to support the workers, to support everybody who is disadvantaged in whatever way. At this time, as a citizen, I think it's our responsibility, and certainly as the political organization that we represent, this is what we have to do. We have to work in the interest of the people. Our children. Well, it's unfortunate. This thing could have been solved a long time. You know, interestingly, I was listening to Jimmy Bristol last night. I understand he was on George Grant yesterday as well, but in the morning, but last night, certainly. And as he points out there, there's a lot more that we're going to find out as we go along with this issue, because if the thing is constitutional, then the government also has a duty, according to him. That 70% is on the government. It has nothing to do with NIS. NIS is a totally different thing. We govern by two different laws in this matter. So we may just find out that the public servants are entitled to their 70% from the government, plus what they're getting from NIS, right? So given all the constraints, and we know that finance is tight across the board, you really have to sit down and solve this issue. And all it means is that instead of people trying to take this kind of hard stance, is to sit down and talk. Sit down and talk. And that's what we're encouraging everybody to do. But sometimes you have to force the point to get people around the table. Sometimes this is the kind of thing that has to happen so that people recognize that you're serious, you know? So this is it.
All right, and so that was the PRO of the party. That's Mr. Randall Robertson of the National Democratic Congress, who says that they are in solidarity with the protesters. It was just about an hour ago or so, we heard from the Minister for Education, Honorable Emmeline Pear, who appealed to those who are protesting to please return to the negotiating table. She also spoke of how it affects parents and their children.
Ladies and gentlemen, I take the opportunity yet again to address the nation in my capacity as Minister for Education. The decision by the Grenada Union of Teachers to undertake industrial action in response to government's proposal has resulted in significant disruption to schools throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. This disruption in the academic program and the stated intention to intensify actions such as not marking SBAs, not participating in sporting activities, to name a few, will only have more negative effects on our nation's children. The decision by the unions to walk away from the negotiating table came amidst talk on pension restoration and reformation, a discussion that was initiated by this government after more than 35 years.
Thank you very much, Honorable Emmeline Pear. Of course, you're going to hear more about that at a later time in the program at the National Report, and of course it's already posted on our page. But that was her appealing again to the persons who were protesting to return to the negotiating table. Nonetheless, a decision was made today at the rally for the public workers and the teachers to remain home for another day. We sat down in an exclusive with the leader of the Technical and Allied Workers Union, Mr. Andre Lewis.
So the decision of the meeting today, the mass rally today, is that everything continues. It was our hope, it was our wish that the industrial action will be able to be called off. Because what we want We want the, or 25%. And that will get us back to the table to discuss how do we go about the different aspects of the negotiations. And we left there, you know, not letting our guards down, but at the same time feeling that, boy, look, you know, our workers can go back to work. The country could go back to ease. Because the population is very uneasy. Taking into account that that is just the public sector, and the Technical Allied Workers Union have not called any of its members out yet. We have not called any of our members out from the private sector. As we have said, we will determine what we do, how we do, and when we do what we do. But we need to demonstrate to everyone that we are given the process, the longest possible chance of being resolved without having to take too much of a drastic action. So
there was a meeting with the private sector that happened on Sunday. Now we understand that that meeting with the private sector on Sunday was a good one. At least so the unions think. They are saying, without giving details, that what was discussed seemed to be an amicable resolution to the current impasse. But a document was supposed to be signed today, and it didn't happen. That was going to solidify everything that was discussed on Sunday. Now I understand that the discussion between the private sector and the unions, the private sector represented technically the wishes and views of the government. He says that they show that they were on the verge of a settlement. Listen to him.
The meeting, and I can tell you, the meeting with the private sector and the churches, basically, we confirmed that that was whatever it is. I'm not going to go into the details yet, but I promise those, promise all concerned, that if we are unable to reach a settlement, if we are able to get ourselves back to the table based on what was told to us, we shall divulge what the information is. We would not do that as a matter of principle, but just to report to the viewers and the listeners, the nation and the rest of the world and the region, that our meeting with the private sector and the Conference of Churches on the afternoon of Sunday, November 18th, paved the way for a return to the table. The private sector is aware of that. The Conference of Churches is aware of that. I just want to let them know that as we speak at this moment, the necessary correspondence that was supposed to come forward to echo and highlight and identify exactly what they told us, which we have accepted, is yet to come. The private sector basically was not negotiating. Let me make that point. So there was no negotiation. The private sector basically transmitted information from the government.
All right. So you understand. No, there was in fact a meeting last night. Now remember, we told you there was no meeting. What's your story? All right. Remember, we told you that there was no meeting. But here's what go on. Later into the evening, into the afternoon, so from afternoon into evening, into the night, the government, to Peter David, met with the unions and they had a discussion. Now again, they are saying that whatever was discussed, they're not going to say as a matter of principle. But government is positive. They said in a press release, they show that, you know, things going to be resolved. But the union is saying, yeah, y'all keep saying that. Where the paper? They want the papers to prove that. And before we move on to the next story, we also spoke to the president. Well, you know what? I think I have something here for you. Let me see. Yes, man. Here, hold on. Here's Andre speaking about the meeting.
First of all, let us back up a bit. You may or may not know that we met with the Minister for Labor yesterday afternoon, into the evening, into the night. Because our meeting was preconditioned on the lifting, the discontinuance of the injunction against the Public Workers Union. That was done, and we kept our word. We met sometime probably after 4 minutes to 5 or thereabouts, and we did not leave there probably until after 8 or minutes to 8. So, and the long and short is that based on the discussions that we held, based on coming out of our meeting with the private sector and the Conference of Churches, because the Conference of Churches and the private sector met with us on Sunday, and based on what they had transmitted to us as coming from the government, because they met with the government, yes, we saw a settlement to get us back to the table. And that was re-emphasized yesterday with the minister, and that had to be communicated to us in writing, because that is what was transferred to us, transmitted to us by the Conference of Churches and the private sector.
Thank you very much. All right, and so that's what they're saying. They need the paper, the document, a signed document in which they agreed on, so that, you know, everything can return to normal. They can go back to the negotiating table. So for now, protest action continues, not in the streets, but they have asked teachers and the public workers to stay home. And our final point on this particular matter, we met the leader, the acting leader of the National Democratic Congress, and we spoke to him about today's protest action.
Well, I think that the workers are justified in taking the position that they have taken. We also believe that whenever there is any conflict, that the best way to go is the route of negotiation. And if one side is holding a gun to the head of the other or a sword across your neck, then you cannot call that negotiation. That is intimidation. And so I believe that the unions are justified in standing up for what they believe are their rights. We encourage the authorities to sit down and have genuine negotiation with all the trade unions, to withdraw all threats of injunctions, threats of withholding salaries, and so on. Because you need a proper climate in order for this to come to an amicable and satisfactory solution.
In terms of the 25%, the government has said that they think that that's going to put a strain on the economy. Do you share that same view?
Well, I'm not in government, so I'm not in a position to say what will put a strain on the economy or not. It is my understanding that this is something that is written into the Constitution. And if it is part of the Constitution, then any government has an obligation to honor it. The question of whether the present administration can afford to do it, that would be something that they'd have to work out together with the unions. But we must always bear in mind that the government keeps boasting about massive surpluses and strong, robust economic growth over the past 5-6 years and so on. So we need some consistency in messaging from the Minister of Finance. You cannot be crying trouble on the one hand and thumping your chest on the other hand, talking about how good things are. It's one or the other.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. And folks, the next story, boy, comes from the airport. You understand? We received word that a report of a man pulling a gun on a security officer at the Maurice Bishop International Airport. People, you understand? We heard news earlier today, boy. Mikey, come check it out. Come down by the airport, boy. You know what I mean? But you know how people dramatic already. Now, what we were told was a man apparently, allegedly, pulled a gun on a security guard. You understand? So what really go on? You know, according to reports, someone was sparked in a particular area on the airport, you know, and the vehicle was clamped, and there was some sort of exchange of words between the security guard and the person who was being clamped. Yes? And then the next thing you know, there are allegations that at some point in time a gun was brandished. Yes? So, we are not really sure on what really going on, but there's an allegation of that. You understand? We spoke to the person in question. In fact, when we put up a little thing on the page earlier on, we spoke to the person in question who denies the allegation, who admits that he had an air pistol in his car, and yes, upon returning to his car, he had it in his hand but not exposed. You know, he denies pointing any gun or any such thing towards anyone. In fact, he says that there's no way that the security officer could have seen himself what he had in his hand. And that's the person's position on the matter. But what we understand, that there are allegations that a gun was brandished and that the matter is being investigated by police. All right? So we would see where this one goes. We're moving on. People, how are we looking for time? All yeah. The next story that we have to tell all you, time running fast, boy. Now, a man who is being accused of supermarket lifting, I can't say shoplifting, was caught on tape by a particular supermarket. You understand? And the supermarket decided to publish two things: video evidence of the individual stealing in the past, and another bit of footage where the individual was caught. Now, initially, when I saw the whole thing circulating on social and stuff, I thought, you know what, let's leave that alone, because sometimes things get hard and people are a little hungry and stuff. You understand? So, okay, when I pass in the supermarket tomorrow, I'll go pay for it. But the problem with that is, when the supermarket alludes to the fact that it is not a first-time incident, that's another story. That's another story. So the supermarket has published an incident where they would have asked the individual to hands up, to give up some of the things that were taken. You understand? It's not a laughing matter. You know? It's not a laughing matter. But this is what is out there. You understand? So he was asked to show some of the things that he had, you know, and as you can see, one of the supermarket's workers were pretty upset with what was happening. All right, so yeah, it's a tough one, boy. You know, partners, next time give us a phone call. You understand? Give us a phone call. We will see how we could help you out in a like a situation. You know what I mean? A small thing. You understand? Yeah. Next time, just yeah, we have a little thing there. Just give us a little short, and we go see how we could get apply. You understand? But it's tough, you know, on all sides. You know. Anyway, we're moving on. Speaking of